Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Happy Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. So we probably look a little bit different. Welcome to Literally Wasted Special Tuesday edition because Tally and I have a work trip tomorrow and we'll be unable to do it tomorrow. So we are here on a Tuesday to discuss the second half, the whole book, the final discussion of Klara and the Sun.
Woo!
But first, tell us who's here.
Okay, I'll tell you who's here. I'll tell you right now.
Whoa, there it is.
Hi, Joe and Jennifer, Brendan, Steve, Rachel, Brandy, Spare, Henry. Hi, Willa and Jody and Kira and Brandy. Kira again, Mariah. Hi. Oh, and Mariah's dad, Bill. Hi, Tim and Dan, Tammy, Judy, Giggles and Kent and Cindy. Hi, Rick and Missy and Natalie, Kira, Giggles, Brandy and Jan.
Hey.
Nice. Hey.
Thanks for changing your schedules to be with us
Bethany
on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. As you can see, Kristen and I are coming to you from utter chaos.
Sorry.
As we have just moved to a new house and obviously have not unpacked.
We're working on it.
Slowly.
Kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are in a new house. So let's begin. Klara and the Sun.
Yes.
Let us know what you think about the book. We'll start. Who should we start with?
Do we want to recap?
No, we don't do recaps.
Okay,
the book ended. All the stuff happened.
It is ahead.
We'll start with Dan's take here.
Okay,
Ooh.
I'll go first. I liked it. It was fine.
Okay. Wow. Glowing review.
Yeah. I really wanted more. And what's really interesting is I was doing some research to have stuff to talk about today because I did not have anything to talk about when I started today. And it got me really excited for this live discussion actually. And I'm really ready to talk about it now. And so I started today being like, and now I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I know that's super vague, but I'm taking a cue from the author.
That was not
being really vague.
It's not really okay. Hey Cindy, glad you're staying safe up there in Tennessee temporarily.
Oh yeah.
Watch
for anyone
out for that
who's displaced.
hurricane.
Is it Ian?
Ashley had strong opinions of the second half of this book.
Oh, I put that up there already.
Okay.
Dumpster fire. Dan's in the cone. I'll go.
Do you want to hold it? You can hold it.
This is helpful. I didn't hate it. I just thought that it was going somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was with it. I was with it pretty far into the book. I was like, we're going there, and then the Sun came in the room and Josie healed, and I was like,
yeah.
Cool. All right.
Then it just kind of ended.
And then we had a scene sort of at the junkyard. But I have mixed feelings about it because there's a lot of stuff that I really liked about this book. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I had more experience with or more exposure to. I think that the snippets that we got of the world that we live in, which is a world that's like ours, but has enough differences to make you think this might be some kind of post-apocalyptic or dystopian or something. There's something's going on here. But yeah, I think Steve kind of summed it up for me as it was just oh, okay. It's just that was the sound I made at the end of the book by myself. The dogs were like,
excuse me.
But yeah, we could talk more about that, and I'm interested to hear what Christy has to say because she hasn't told me anything.
Go, Lucas.
Oh,
I want you to go.
So I went into the second half again, somewhat re-energized, kind of being okay throughout the first half. I honestly think I liked the second half better.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Like I liked the whole going to the doctor and like because I guess we got to see a little bit more, but I never got enough to feel satisfied of the world and everything. I do like Klara. Like I liked Klara by the end, and I think we'll get into the discussion of what does it mean to be human and those type of deeper discussions, but uh, it just ended, and then poor Clara's just literally I all I could think of was the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz and just whiling away the hours until she just turns off or something, and then the manager comes by and it's like, okay, Clara, well, it's great to see you, bye, and the end. So I don't know if I could really recommend this to someone. It's not that it's poorly written or anything. It's just it didn't give me enough of the world, and I kind of would have rather if Josie died, so Clara could have been like Josie Robot Clara and lived on. that's kind of sad, but it just missed the mark for me kind of the whole way through. Go ahead, Talia.
Okay, I saw a couple of y'all, so you're not alone. No one is more surprised than me, but I loved this book. Like, not my norm at all. Never a book I would have chosen. Not at all the type of book that I like. Not sure why either, honestly. I don't know that I can put it into words, but something about this book to me, even though it was so sad and like did like for sure, like when it ended had like a like depressing feel. Something about it was just beautiful to me. Don't know why. I don't know. Like I said this last time too, that like this one specifically feels like a piece of art to me. And like art is not something that like art is so subjective, and like it's not like there's like, oh, this is clearly good art or bad art or whatever. But this piece of art clicked with me somehow. I don't know. I don't get it, you guys. But like just overall, I thought this was a beautiful piece. Totally different. But it worked for me. I don't know.
I get that it's like, so here's how I would compare it to like a symphony. Like when you go and you listen to a symphony, like I don't know, Beethoven's Ninth or something like that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful all the way through, but there are parts that like you don't remember. Like everybody remembers Ode to Joy, everybody, all that stuff. Like it's kind of like the opposite of that. Like the whole time you're like, this is beautiful, but then like sometimes you're just like, meh. To me, there was no like Ode to Joy at the end of the symphony, though.
Like I can't put my finger on it. It's just. Oh, you know what it makes me think of? Okay, if you've seen Parks and Rec, there's this episode where everyone's trying to make a mural to like represent Pawnee, Indiana, and Tom Haverford goes and pays like a college student. He's like, make me something like that, a mural that represents the city. And it's some abstract weird thing. It's just shapes and lines and whatever. And he's like, what is this? This is stupid. Like, look at this rate of like, this is not Pawnee. And then by the end of the episode, he's just staring at it. And he's like, I can't look away. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know what it is. He's like, but it just speaks to me. That's how I feel about this book.
You're Tom Haverford.
That's not, no. Nope. Yuck. Just this. And when I'm doing this, I'm like, just the book is right here. I don't know. It made me feel things. Yes, Joe. Is it normal?
I won't deny that it didn't make me feel things. Some of the things that I felt weren't like, you know, I don't know. It just felt like there was a lot going on. You know, there was a lot at stake. Klara put a lot of faith in the son, and I was fully expecting that to not work out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, you know, I guess good for you that you defied my expectations. It did.
Well,
Yeah, I definitely thought she was going to.
I agree. Lucas, you said like Josie didn't die, and that was kind of a letdown. And I felt the same way. Like, I'm so sorry, but I felt like the kid should have died.
Yeah. I know that's sick, but at the same time, it's because I liked Klara. I liked Klara, and I liked what Klara brought, and like her blind faith and innocence and simplicity. Like I really liked Klara, and Josie was okay, but I would have rather, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I wanted Josie to pass away because we get to see Clara's story like continue. I just felt like it would have made more sense for where the story was going. And I felt like the sudden turnaround did not make sense.
We got the reveal of what their plan was, and we kind of predicted it in the last live stream a little bit. We got the reveal of what their plan was early, like way earlier than I thought we were going to get. Like we're basically into the second half, and they're like, oh yeah, the portrait is an AF, and we're going to replace Josie with Klara, which is kind of messed up. It's messed up. This whole plan was messed up. The mom being like, we're going to love you so much. You're going to be so loved. And Klara just being like, here's the weird thing to me. And I talked to Christy about this too, is that Klara was like, yeah, I know this was the plan. Like, what? We've been in your head the whole time. No, you didn't. They're telling her the plan, and she's like, yeah, I kind of figured.
But it's also after they went to that house and after she took the test, like they were still in the house, but she had just taken that test. And I think that at that point she had figured it out. We just weren't along for the ride.
Yeah, well, that's selective along for the rideness.
Well, I mean, what kind of story would it have been if your narrator knows everything right away, but also then just like lists all that information out for you? It's hard for me to even, because this book's so weird and so different than anything I read. Like, I don't know how to analyze it. Like, I can't even like pick, to me, it's like a cohesive thing. Like normally I can be like, well, here's major plot holes, or like, what was this over here? Or why was this? Like, I'm having trouble separating the weave.
Well,
is it all in boxes?
It's hard to have
it's
hard to have plot holes when the plot, if we were to just like summarize the plot, is very simplistic. Like there's really just like a very basic plot to this, which is Klara and AF goes to live with a family who is trying to replace their sick daughter with a robot. Klara tries to save the daughter by begging the son to save the daughter. She has to do that she made a deal with the son to kill the Cootings machine, which she does with her own brain fluid. And I guess it worked out. That's it.
How do we feel about that scene with like, hey, I'm gonna get a sharp screwdriver and cut behind your ear, and then we're gonna pour this in like a Pepsi bottle, and I'm gonna go over here and dump it in, and
even though there are cameras.
Like what? I kind of had issues with. I almost would have rather they not have done that, because it felt really weird, and it also was kind of like, why would the father go that far to do that if he knew and was starting to buy in with the thought that, okay, my potentially sick child, like this automaton is going to replace my child, like why would you jeopardize any part of that?
Well, I don't think he wanted that.
I don't think he wanted that, but at the same time he had started to kind of buy into it, and then for him to just like go in this kind of crazy harebrained, like this robot's telling me to destroy this machine when he knows that there's just another machine right behind it to replace it. So I don't know, that never truly gelled with me.
For me, what it represented, how I saw it, and this is obviously like this entire book honestly reads like a metaphor, so I'm sure it can be interpreted in a million different ways. But for me, what it just seemed like is a theme so much here with the parents was desperation. These parents, they were desperate for hope that Josie was going to make it. You're willing, so I mean, like this creating the portrait was out of desperation of her not to lose Josie in some form or fashion. Like all of these things were born out of desperation because these parents are broken. Like especially the mom, she's broken. And like you see that because of the doll that didn't work. So like we got that answer of like whatever that was that happened in the field forever ago. But like I think maybe if you're in a place where like he's so desperate, sure, maybe she has a plan, like whatever. And I don't know that he like really bought into the portrait idea of Josie. So like I feel like if I were in a place, if something were happening, if my kid were sick, I would grasp at every single straw.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
a good
just
point.
that was kind of just how my brain
Because
made
she
sense
was,
of
yeah,
that, because it was
and-
definitely a different part of the book. It had a different like pacing and feel to it. But
Well, and Clara was dead convinced. Like she's like, if I do this, Josie will get better.
Yeah.
yes, so I agree, Julie. Like so much of this book to me is like not at all about anything that happened. It's so much about like feelings and emotions and stages of your life and letting things go. And like it's, to me, yeah, all the stuff that actually happened was just pawns on the board. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. It was different.
Yeah.
I don't know if like, so like Julie's comment is like, this is about exploring what it means to be human and being replaced by AI and stuff like that. But even that was kind of a small part of the book. I feel like I don't feel like, it obviously didn't beat you over the head with that sort of philosophy or the philosophical talk, especially once we found out what their plan was. It was all about like, what it means to be human, being replaced, and there was the Mr. What's his face, Capaldi, who was like, there's nothing special about Josie. You can easily like replace her, which is like, all right, I guess all we are just like synapses and, electricity running our meat puppets.
But even Clara at the end decided that wasn't possible or right. But I want to go back really quick to the dad thing, like why he helped her.
Mhm.
When I read it as if he was desperate and he was willing to try anything. But I did some Googling today and I found a lot of people who are wondering, like, did the father help Clara because he wanted to damage her and ruin the mother's plan? Because he watched her like a hawk afterwards and like was really worried that she was like messed up. And
Well, and she said that. Like she told him, she was like, are you helping me in like the hopes that like you can damage me and I won't be able to replace Josie?
yeah.
like,
No. No.
And I mean,
Yeah.
we got to see from her narration that it did like very much affect how she was able to perceive things.
Yeah, she was like a
And
drunk
that was-
person that was trying
that
not
was
to let
weird.
people think she was drunk. She was like, I hope they can't see me stumbling right now.
Yeah.
Did we ever get what AF stood for?
Artificial
Artificial friend.
friend.
Okay, that's I thought I was listening, but I was listening to the whole second half in the car, so I have kind of missed that. That's what I assumed it was.
Paul's appearance and involvement in the story was fascinating to me. Like I enjoyed the parts where he was around because it gave you like a different, like all of a sudden you had like a new perspective on things, and I really wanted to know more about his situation.
Mhm.
His living situation and everything, and
Because like all of a sudden Miss Helen's calling him a fascist, and like
And he lives in a community that has of engineers that have to defend themselves.
that was
Yeah.
that was a like really kind of abrupt conversation to me. Like at first I thought Helen was gonna like talk about her crush on him or something, but no, she's like, "You're a fascist," and I was like, "What?
Ew.
Whoa!"
Well, and Adam, you mentioned when we were talking about the dad and his community, like, is this? I mean, this is definitely set in the future, and it's science fiction-y, but is this also dystopian?
Yeah, what is this? What is this world? I mean, define dystopian, a world where you can replace humans with robots. That's pretty dystopian, I think. But there's like pockets of what we claim to be or what we think of as normal civilization, I guess.
Kinda.
And then like other pockets that are like these like refugees or like these like sort of like off the grid communities. Yeah, there's a lot of world building that like didn't happen that made me curious about what this world is. And like I don't even know if it matters, like did we get enough to just like get the point, or like, but that was fascinating. Anytime you have like a different world, you kind of want to know more about it. People are talking about in the comments about like Josie. What did you think of Josie? What are people's opinions of Josie? We're getting Josie isn't a very sympathetic character.
Well, she's a kid.
The way Josie treated people made it hard to be sympathetic. She was treated poorly and treated others poorly.
I will say I don't know. Once again, I felt very like, usually when you read a book, do you feel like you're like submerging yourself like into this world? And like this one, I felt like I was very much on the outside, just like looking at it the whole time. So I never really got fully emotionally invested in any of the characters. But I also don't feel like that would have made a difference for me if I had. But I don't know. Like it's hard for me like to say she was or wasn't likable because she's a kid who thought she was dying. Like I don't know how to cope with that. I don't know how that affects your personality. I can't imagine that's easy for anybody at any stage in life, but as a child in this weird world, and also knowing that the reason you're dying is because your parents made this choice to genetically lift you, and that this also happened to your older sibling who's already died. Like how does that shape who you are? Like I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
I think I had a general indifference toward Josie. She was there, and like there were more times where like I think people are talking about her just sort of odd social skills and her sort of stunted social development just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, as probably it should. So like I didn't dislike Josie, but they were like her the way she spoke to people, the way she spoke to Klara and like all that stuff, like just like but like everybody kind of had a weird way of talking a little bit, like
Oh yeah, that really bothered me actually.
like the dialogue in this book was like
unique. Yeah.
yeah,
Helen
feel-
was like the most normal.
not natural.
But I feel like all of the adults kind of talked the same way as Klara. Like all the humans did, and it really bothered me because that didn't make any sense.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe they're all
Maybe
Klaras.
maybe they were all like replaced.
that cropped up in my head where it's like, are we gonna see like when they were talking about Clara's sister that basically got what they call it, like a not a
bereavement
sympathy
doll?
doll,
It was a
bereavement
bereavement
doll.
doll, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. It just made me wonder, like, is one of these main characters going to, you know, have gone through that process?
And I
didn't
think
think.
I think they. Here's my thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason they called it a bereavement doll was to be dismissive of that versus this new attempt.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually like a doll. It was like what we did before, that was just a bereavement doll. This is going to be the real deal. Like, even though what we tried before was kind of what we were trying now, but it failed. Now we can do it better. So like that's what I feel like they were doing with Sal. Is like they tried to do the same thing, but that just to like dismiss it as like, oh please, like that's the iPhone 2. This is the iPhone 15.
Mhm.
So like,
But that is how, I mean, that's like, you joke, you call it an artificial friend. And I've seen so many people make the reference of yes, because then she gets left in the dump. But it's so much of that I feel like is tied to, of course, that's how we're going to feel in our world because this technology doesn't exist. We don't have access. Like, how would we perceive if we were to live in a world where this is like a common thing that exists? If a lot of people are being replaced by, like, jobs are being replaced by robots, the technology is different. Like, we see Klara as a person because we're inside her brain and we're witnessing what she thinks and how she's feeling about stuff. We're getting her story, but they don't see Klara as a person. Like, they can call it whatever they want, but like the way that they do, it's just another piece of technology. And it's
Well, they also weren't consistent because the mom like said Clara was a part of the family and treated her like part of the family for most of it until Josie got well.
but I wonder, like, was she actually loving Klara and seeing Klara as part of the family, or is she seeing this might be my future Josie?
Yeah, future
And
Josie.
so that's why I can give you these feelings, because I'm seeing you as you might be all that I get to have. And then once she realizes, oh, I don't need you anymore, well then okay. We're done with this piece
yeah.
of tech. Like,
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. It's
Somebody said like they're stuffed animals when they left at home for college. It's basically the same thing.
Well, and I know everybody feels really sad for Clara, and Clara's at the yard, right? It's not, they didn't call it a junkyard, but it's how it felt. And it was really sad. The whole ending was very sad, but Clara wasn't sad. She was content, and she was like reliving her happy memories. And it's really fascinating to me that they told us that and showed us that, and we still came away feeling really sad for her.
yeah, she was like, this was my purpose and I fulfilled it.
Yeah.
So she was like, this was my job. I did it and I'm done. Like, yes, we, the humans, feel sad. This was her story. And she was like, this was great. She was like, Josie chose me and I got to be there for Josie. It was my job to see her through her childhood. And they know, like, notice, like, adults don't have artificial friends. So like, we're all really sad because like you left her behind, but like she knew that was going to happen to her. That is what happens to all of them. So she's like, I did it. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I got really, really lucky. And
the
we're like,
manager showed up.
but like, I still, now I'm like thinking about like my childhood bunny and like I want her back. But that's just like, because that's who we are.
Adam, can you scroll up? And Ashley Wade had a comment that I wanted.
This one?
No, not to this. It's up. It's
This
her.
one?
Yes, I saw this. So there's a cartoon floating around Facebook, and Ashley, I saw this too. And I have been, in light of this book and that cartoon, I have been asking Google to please do things so I don't burn.
I wondered why you did say please the other night to Google, and I was like,
it's like, Google, can you
weird.
please turn off the arcade?
So this book has actually got me doing something a little new. Anytime I'm outside and like in the sunlight and feeling the heat, I always think of it as getting the sun's special nourishment now.
I
And-
like that.
But
Like,
you
I-
hate being in the sun.
I didn't love this book, but I do love that feeling.
I mean, it's true, and we do all need like it's good for you. Like the vitamin D, it is like weather. It really does affect your mentality. You know, that's why like they say a lot of times winter is really hard because when we have all of these gray days, it does affect like your mental health. And so I do like that's a fun thing to.
I stepped
about.
outside and
Yeah, you've been stepping out. You've been
Superman.
stepping out in the sun like quite a bit the past couple of days.
yeah, you got a
The
Superman.
ring
got a-
keeps blowing
I got
up.
a lot of nourishment today. So here's something that we haven't talked about. This weird little side plot of Rick trying to get into college and him meeting the guy that Helen that meet at the diner, and Clara was just there to witness this whole thing go down. Rick, just in general, as a character, was interesting to me. I liked being around Rick.
He was like a normal human, like the only one.
Yeah, and but then they went to this diner, this restaurant to meet the guy, and it got weird.
Yeah.
It was weird.
What the hell? was
Yeah,
that?
that guy had a lot of like built up bitterness.
Yeah.
And just was like, oh, here's my opportunity to obviously never got over this stuff. Let me like beat you over the head with it, I guess.
Well, it seemed to be going okay. And yeah, Tim, I was kind of there too.
I thought that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think that.
I
but-
mean, like they did say it was over like long before he came along, but I did kind of wonder. I was like, well, maybe I missed something.
Like it seemed to go well. Rick was handling it okay, and then he was like, "What do we asked? You know, I can't do you a favor. You asked me to do a favor." And then Helen steps in and is like, "Yeah, we are asking for a favor." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well then, boom, 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 boom." And Rick's like, "Oh gosh, let's get the hell out of here." But it just kept going, and then the guy was like, "I like you. I don't like you. Bye." And then Helen's like, "It might go. You know."
He ended up going somewhere else, right?
I don't know if he went to college.
I don't think I didn't
don't-
get the sense that he did.
I think
Yeah, I kind of feel like he got a job and just
he got his new friends.
I remember the new friends.
And he got his car,
His
remember the car.
and he
What was
got
the car
he had his-
called?
Was it
The-
trash or something? Something
it
with
was
trash.
something kind of funny.
The
junk.
dump
The
or
dump.
junk, maybe?
something like that.
Junker.
Yeah, somebody help us.
Somebody will help us out here.
Mhm.
It was like the pile, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But he had his little the
wreck.
wreck. There you go.
Thank you, Cindy.
He had his drones, which what are those?
His birds,
His birds. He had his birds.
camera birds.
His drones, his spy drones, which was impressive to the guy, but that whole situation was just bizarre. Like being in that chapter or that section of the book all of a sudden, and like seeing this whole thing play out, and then like, you know, kind of getting the continuation in the epilogue, basically, was like, why are we here? What is this? What is the purpose of this? Which is a question I don't really have the answer to, but it'd be nice to know what y'all's thoughts are on, like, you know, just to show like the trials of an unlifted guy trying to get into college here. But
The only way, because like for me, that did feel like very separate and a little unnecessary. So I was like trying to think, I was like, okay, how can I tie this in? Like, how can I make sense of why is my brain like tying, like, what do I need from this random scene? And yeah, it's like you said, the trials of the unlifted. What it showed me is they did talk about so much about like, okay, you basically, there's like only one program that you can go to when you're not lifted. One.
And they're
it's
selective.
and it's so competitive. It's so hard to get in. So maybe it's meant to show us why these parents, like, if it's so dangerous to be lifted, look at what happened to Josie, look at what happened to Josie's sister. Maybe it's helping show, like, your kids really don't have options if you don't do this, though. Like, because it'd be easy to be like, okay, all these parents suck. Like, you're murdering your children for the chance that they could go do this. But if as a parent, you're like, this might be their only option, though, at a successful life, then it does alter that perspective a little bit. Like, that's kind of the only thing that I could pull from it.
The thing is, like, the thing about Rick was that he was like super smart. Like that kid, like he was like he wasn't lifted, but he was like didn't need to be. Really, it didn't seem like it. You know, he was like building drones and stuff, and you know, he seemed to have a good head on his shoulders. Whereas like he seemed, people in the comments talking about growth, and it's interesting to me like where I saw character growth and where I didn't see character growth, and I don't ever really feel like I saw character growth in Josie. Rick, I think I did. You know, Rick, and like Paul, maybe the mother, like Josie and the mom didn't really seem like they went anywhere, really, to me. Just
You can see like a little
microscopic
bit,
amount.
a little bit of growth. Like, I mean, Josie was just like growing into herself. She went from, and she's still like a young adult, but she went from being like a kid to stop, you bad cat. Sorry. Quit it. Oh my God. What a butt. I'm so sorry. But like, you know, she grew. She was like, it's just like, it's an unfortunate, like she grew older and she put her toys away, kind of. Like, I feel like, so we didn't get to see too much of it, but it just felt like, you know, she's growing. She's focusing on, she made it through that weird health thing and now is like focusing on, well, now he has a fork.
Elizabeth says, I think Josie grew a bit when she accepted that life she had planned with Rick wasn't going to happen. I think they both kind of had that too. Like,
yeah.
Rick explained it more than Josie did. Like she talked to Rick about it.
And then the mom had, you know, she was like, okay, Josie made it. And then she did have, like, even though Klara was one of Josie's childhood toys, essentially, had been a backup plan, like, she wouldn't let, what's his face, the portrait artist man, like, take Josie. And, like, yes, she ended up in the yard anyways, but I think that's kind of what she was referring to was her slow fade. It's like either that or, you know, yes, for science, you get to take her apart and use her for your demonstrations. So, I mean, not a lot of growth, but we also just didn't get a lot more of them, period.
So AFs. Here's,
Yes.
I have to ask because I don't know. We don't really know. We don't really get a sense of this from the book, but like, is Claire's experience with Josie abnormal, or is this one of the big purposes of AFs?
To have a backup?
Yeah.
For lifted kids, probably. It wouldn't surprise me.
Like what else are AFs? You know, they just the stuffed animals that like can talk to you, or like.
No, this a lot of its purpose of like socialization. So like these lifted kids need help with socialization, need help with tutoring, like a nanny bot essentially to some degree. That did kind of blow my mind a little bit just because the thought had never occurred to me. But I do feel like this story is more unique than that.
So you think Clara's experience as an AF is not normal? It's not
Yes.
It's not a typical experience.
I think it might not be like solitary, but I do think it was a unique experience. This is obviously just my personal opinion. It's not a right answer, but I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me. I don't know.
It's like obviously this guy exists to like make photo portraits.
Yeah. Dolls.
But yeah, I don't know. Like Clara's experience as an AF, like she, because in the ending, she's like, I did my job, I did my purpose, but like she was faced with the possibility of having to like become somebody,
Yeah.
and she, in the end, didn't she like explicitly come to the conclusion that that wasn't possible? She explained that to the manager, like that's not it's impossible for me to do. Like I couldn't have done it.
And that was also her special skill, remember? Like she was unique in her ability to absorb and like learn and mimic. Like the other AFs couldn't do that. I'm sorry, Chrissy, I saw your mouth open. You were going to say something.
Oh, I don't know what it was. I mean, I have a next thing if you're done. Okay. So Rick Wiles said in the discussion topic post, was Josie cured and became better, or was she actually continued? There are several hints she was continued.
Continued as in like AF'd?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know what those
What were
hints
the
are
hints
because
on?
I didn't get that.
Such as, let's see. Klara is told by Capaldi that we want you to inhabit Josie up there with everything you've learned, and inhabit Josie doesn't necessarily mean being like cut and pasted. I think that she was copied when they did the test and they were able to use the copy. And I think Klara was there. Also, like everybody that Josie was close to after she got better, she was distanced from. Like Rick and her dad. Her dad came and visited her once after she got better. And her mom, like everybody was distanced. And Paul did say that like her mom wasn't going to be able to deal with her, like because she wasn't going to have to be able to like love her because she's going to know that it's not the real Josie.
What?
We'll see.
What's what they replace her with?
Let's see.
Interesting.
In her last chapter conversation with the manager, Klara brings up that she doesn't believe she could have continued Josie and that she wouldn't have succeeded since those who love Josie wouldn't feel love for new Josie. But the fact is that they don't feel love for new Josie, or maybe they do, but again, they're distant. We learn that all those who love Josie, except the obsessed mother, stopped interacting with Josie in the years after her resurrection, including Melania, housekeeper. Klara tells us that the father has turned up only once in all the years, as would be true if Josie were now the replacement. Rick has gradually stopped visiting too. That's because Klara's Josie's data couldn't quite pull off the continuation. And then we have the conversation with the mom and Capaldi at the end. Capaldi says to the mother, I just did my best to help you. I'm glad it worked out well with Josie in the end. That's no reason for you to be so mad at me all the time. It kind of makes sense if Josie is now the replacement. The rather crazy mother probably never fully accepted the new Josie, just as the father predicted. She would be angry at Capaldi and probably Josie and Klara, who she pointedly ignores when she sees her around the house. And Josie, like, completely stops being friends with Klara. Like, Klara lives in the closet, even though they were friends for so long. And the mother, welcomed Klara into the house, just completely stopped acknowledging her.
Yeah, I read this. So here's the thing. I think this is super fun to think about. I think it's really, really fun to think about. And I think it's a really, really like cool and interesting concept, but it doesn't fit into this box for me personally, mostly because Ashley made a better point earlier about like, because there's so much pushback coming from, that's why he was like, can I take Klara apart? Can I show people how AFs work? Because people are like starting to come down on it. Like they don't want this technology anymore. I remember the confrontation in front of the theater. They're like, this AF should not get a seat for a human. Like that should be a paid seat for a human. So I don't feel like that's the case because I don't feel like Josie would then go to college. Like this is not a believable, like people are going to know. So I don't know that I can fully buy into that, but man, that's fun to think about. Like I never really thought about that.
Rick pointed out one of the other clues. Like when I guess that it was that day that the sun had its miracle and gave her Josie the special nourishment. Her mom was wearing black. Like it kind of makes sense
Maybe
that
they
that's
were
around
expecting
the
Josie
switch.
to die that day.
I was going to say, they did think she was going to die.
There's lots of little hints, and most of them are super vague, but it was really fun to like go through and read them all.
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
buy it.
I don't buy it
know.
either, but that is really fun. I mean, that's really, really interesting though to think about. But yeah, I think that's just like a really, really awesome, like really great fan theory.
There's only good left in AF. It's true. But so, oh gosh, what was I going to say? Somebody asked way earlier in the conversation, what was going to be their plan if they were always expecting Klara to have this slow fade?
Well, Klara's still going to have the slow fade, but maybe the Josie doll is different.
Okay, time out. What exactly was their plan? Like, how was Klara involved in this plan? Like, so they made a Josie doll. Were they going to take Klara's consciousness and put it in the Josie doll and basically say, like, now act like Josie? That was their plan?
Yep.
So Klara's body would have been...
No, I think that they could have just copied it. They didn't need to transplant it. They could have just copied it.
But she did, because she asked though at one point. She asked the mom. She was like, "What would happen?" She was like, "If I was Josie, what would happen to this?" And like gestured to her body, and she was like, "It's just like." She was like, "Basically, it's just fabric. It's just material. You wouldn't be there anymore."
Yeah,
so that's why
she said, "What does it matter?"
There's an article that Kira posted we can't click on from this thing, but.
Okay, yeah, I really want to read that.
Yeah, post that in the group, please, because I'm gonna
go into the comments of this live stream and find it.
See, Leanne, yeah, I think that's the reason why she stopped hanging out with Rick and Klara.
Because she was a fake.
Because yeah,
I don't know. I can't go that.
There's that whole thing about like the love.
There's too many too many.
That like professed love between Josie and Rick, and then it just didn't do anything, and so that
like kids being kids.
Yeah, well, or she's a robot.
Robot.
I just think that's, when you're young, they admitted like they were young and they always had this plan as children that they were going to go have a life together, and like that's a really, really sweet thought when you're a kid.
Yeah,
but that's not how real life works.
Well, Josie's new body, new Josie would have had a slow fade as well, right? Like There were
upgrades since Klara was made, so maybe not.
That was the only thing that I could think about is like, so an original, like maybe the original AFs, so they have this purpose to be a child's toy, a child's companion, so they're given a set period of time. But what happens? Oh, what?
She's clarifying. I thought she was supporting, but she was saying that she distanced herself from Rick and Klara because she was healed and had other choices of people to be social with.
Yeah.
But if you're a child, you're like, a toy has this lifespan and that's it. Okay, but if you have the ability, if you have the technology, if you have the desire to make this toy last forever and you're willing to invest in it forever, then yeah, that's doable. Just no one has ever done it before, because why would they want to extend the child's toy forever? Like, they don't need to. So I just kind of assumed it would be that. Like you said before, like just kind of like they'd continue to upgrade her.
Joe.
Okay. Hey, Josie, it's time for your firmware updates.
Yeah, Joe says you don't need your nanny chef when you run on solar power.
I don't get nanny chefs. They do still have a housekeeper. Yeah, they just got a different one.
New
housekeeper. With no name, who could also be an AF.
Yeah, everybody's an AF in this book except for Paul and Rick.
You never know.
Yeah.
There's no spark. There's nothing that makes us individuals.
Ooh, Kira. That hurts. But yeah.
And they discard her when she's no longer needed. Josie and Rick's amazing love faded like most teenage love, etc. Yeah. No, it was super realistic. Like, I think even within this sort of strange world, some of the human struggles were there. Even if they talked weird.
That's proof that the housekeeper was not an AF. She would have been good at her job. This is proof. She was disorganized and she forgot where stuff is. Oh, she human. Got it.
Yeah.
Another thing people ask, this is another one from Rick actually. He said when Clara first enters the barn, she sees the red shelves and coffee cups from the store she was in, and eventually the housekeeper's blender is in there too. What's the deal with the barn?
Yeah, what's the deal with the barn?
And
Oh, I
because she
legit
even
have
sees
no clue.
Rosa in there at one point.
Does she?
Mm-hmm.
I assumed that was part that the slow fade was beginning. And now that she's also missing
It's-
fluid, because she talks about in the end, like her memories, she had to sit and focus really hard and she was able to then put things in the correct timeline. But everything was starting to overlap and blur together. And I kind of just saw that as the beginning of the degeneration that is happening, essentially.
Well, and
Because otherwise I don't get it.
she saw the coffee cups the first time she went to the barn.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's like a Starbucks cup. Everyone has one.
Maybe.
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
One of the theories I found was the things she saw, the mugs, the blender, and Rosa, belonged to her most cherished memories, like her store, her first friend, and the first days at Josie's house. Maybe the barn, as the son's house, represents sacred space for Clara, a place of importance. And maybe that's why things come up in her mind that are also very dear to her and belong to the essence of her character.
It's just a coffee cup, gee.
Oh, and
That's
Kira had a good
Mort. Sorry. Kira,
good-
what?
had a good comment. She didn't recognize the tools in the barn, so she interpreted it as things she did. Well, and she did that with humans, right? Like she saw cones and then like it adjusted.
Yeah. She's like, until it got like way up in her face from far away, it was just like, yeah,
That
a
was
cone in a cylinder.
Especially after she had her fluid removed from her head. It
Mhm.
was like she had a hard time recognizing faces.
Yeah, because they never refilled her brain. So, I mean,
Yeah.
her slow fade happened probably quicker because she's running half empty.
Ashley.
half full. Barn feels like a sex scene that fades to black. None of the follow through. There was something that I was thinking of that kind of felt like not a follow through, but I can't remember what it is now. I'm slow fading.
It's
I will
happening.
say, I was pleased that she never told her son plan to anyone, because I think it would have broken my heart if then the human had tried to set her straight and be like, no, that's not how it works for humans, and been like that, like, you're wrong. I like that she got to retain that hope and that belief that it worked through her slow fade. Like, I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's like she never found out Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah, no, I like, what? No, like I am glad. Like that would have been an unnecessary, I think, like painful dash in this book that I don't know. Yeah, it's just, well, and I mean, it also fits the title. It is called Clara and the Sun, so I'm glad that bond wasn't broken.
Yeah.
There's a picture of a hand on it
With the sun.
with the sun.
So Kira asks, what was the purpose of seeing Manager again? Why did she pause when walking away? And then someone else mentioned, like a long, long time ago, what was with her limp that was very similar to Josie's?
I mean, I just thought it was that she's aging. Oh, no. Adam, yeah, you're in big trouble, man. Whoa.
I said it was like
ruined
finding
so
out
many
the Santa
things.
Claus isn't real. Obviously, we know that he is.
And it would be traumatizing to learn that he wasn't, even though he is
Correct.
real.
Mommy,
Yes.
remember that time you were watching book club?
Stop. Shh.
And that mean man?
Okay. Faith in the sun was one of the things that made her seem more human. Humans have faith even when it doesn't make sense. Logic and rational. Yeah, a robot with faith is interesting because it's just in itself an interesting concept.
Do you think the other AFs felt the same way about the sun? Like,
I don't think the other AFs felt.
okay. Yeah, Rosa seemed very simple.
Yeah, they had a lot less depth to them. So I don't know. Was that part of like her observation thing, because she was so good at observing things that she knew like I'm observing the sun all the time, and the sun is what gives us this energy. I don't know. I didn't really think about it.
Was sort of the main driving point. But she had like, empirical evidence. She had Beggar Man and the dog.
That is true. She
That-
did also.
Sounds like a radio show. It's Bigger Man and the Dog.
Kelly, I had forgotten that the boy AF criticized Klara at the beginning for stealing some of the sun.
The finite resource that is the sun.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's just proof like they didn't know everything. Yeah, I don't I don't know. That's why this book left me with like, but it's weird. It's like normally I'm so frustrated by not knowing any of the things, and I feel like I have so many questions, and I'm so annoyed when my questions aren't answered. But I was so willing to just kind of like observe this from afar that I was like, okay. It's like the book just happened to me. Do you know what I mean?
It did happen.
You know what? But like,
I never really felt myself while reading the book like trying, like, being like, what is this? What is this? Like I kind of just let it go.
Yeah,
Just read it, especially getting it from Clara's perspective. That perspective was definitely like made the book more interesting, just because you're getting this perspective from a fairly naive piece of technology. Yeah. What?
Christy, is that? I'm sorry, my brain's just like, is that a carousel horse behind you?
It is.
For
the rest of the carousel.
Okay, no, I'll just ask you about that later. I just
You
literally
just
like,
noticed it?
yeah, I don't know. I saw it before, but for some reason it didn't really click that I was like, that's a big horse.
I guess I haven't looked at the comments in like 2 seconds, but
Oh, what happened?
Joe says that Dan smells like beef and cheese,
The gauntlet has been thrown. What is happening?
which
Talk about Santa.
is not a bad thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
Um,
something wicked this way comes. That's what I thought.
I do
Mm.
like beef and cheese.
But yeah, this book was. We had 2 minutes left. What was the thing you were like? Is all the
Yeah,
the
it was
conspiracy
that
theory stuff?
maybe she had already been swapped.
Hmm.
That
Swapped.
hurt my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
If you go on Goodreads and look at the questions, I think that was the top one, and they're like someone did this massive post where they just listed all of the really vague hints. I'm sure there's other places too, but those are the ones I was looking at, and it was some of them were a stretch, but I thought some of them were legitimate and good.
Oh,
I choose that that's part of my story. That's part of the story that I read.
I think that's the nice thing about this book. And I feel like the author, I'm just going to speak for him. I feel like he's probably okay with that. Because, I mean, it's the way that it's written. He's written this intentionally, like, vague and open, like, metaphor of a story. It's art. So interpret the art however you please.
Yep.
I will say that the conversation made me appreciate it a little bit more. I'd have to really grill someone on what they were looking for if I did recommend it to them. It's not the worst thing we've read, in my opinion, by any stretch, but I wanted more. I wanted more of the world, and I could almost see him taking this world and writing some other stuff that may give us some more, and it kind of lives and breathes. It's just doesn't tie in with Klara at all, but it's just like a companion story within the world. That would be of interest to me, but
I feel the
yeah.
opposite. I don't want to read any more of this world. I'm done with this. But I do want to know what Christy was going to say.
Oh, a couple people are asking about the carousel story, and I can do it in like 2 minutes if you're actually curious.
we are.
So my grandma had a arts and crafts store, and behind it there was like a place where people dumped a bunch of crap, and someone dumped like dozens of these like really intricate horses. So she like got out there and dug them all up and started painting them and selling them. And so she always had like 2 carousel horses in her living room.
Oh, fun.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So when we were going through her house, I found this one not painted, so I decided I was going to save it, and I will paint it someday.
There it is, sitting
Nice.
on top of a pile of stuff.
I
Yeah.
love
That's awesome.
that.
That's fun.
So
That's
at the
dozens of them. That's wild. Okay.
on the back of the book, it says, "In Klara and the Sun, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore a fundamental question: what does it mean to love?"
Okay.
That's the
I
question.
Was just
We didn't even talk about
learning
that.
to
We didn't.
love.
Well, too late now. Oh well. Next.
What does it mean to love?
And be loved, because that's why she said she couldn't replace Josie. It wasn't because of something inherent in Josie. It was because of how everyone else loved her and saw her. But anyways, the end. We did it.
So yeah, not like we could say, "Would you read the next one in this book?" Because there is none.
But there are other books by this author.
There are.
I would honestly love to read something else because I want to know if every story is like this.
Klara is the giving tree. That's good.
Well, and I read Never Let Me Go by this author, and I really enjoyed that one. But it's a book that makes you feel things, but I liked it better than this one.
Never Let Me Go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to add that to my
sounds
list.
heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Can't wait to cry.
But we have October's book ready to go. Y'all chose the book. From the poll, it is the Supernatural Enhancements.
Is this the one with the creepy house?
Yes, it's right there. Do you see it?
Edgar
It's the house.
Quintero, who wrote Meddling Kids. So that's going to be
The
October's book.
on October 12th and 26th.
Wait, is October the one with 5 Wednesdays? No,
No.
just kidding. That's November.
And y'all, this one has a really, really easy midway point because I got it and I waited, and it'll be up on like the new cover photos whenever they go up. When I get time to do that. Not tomorrow, sorry. The midway point is part 2. Like it's like literally, stop focus. Look. It's like
An
it's
actual
just
halfway point.
yeah. So there you go.
So
I accidentally
Supernatural.
did glance at a couple of these pages, and y'all, this book reads weird. You're gonna have a hard time with this in the audiobook, but that's fine.
I don't know if there is an audiobook.
Yeah, I also don't. I learned that like this week that I don't think there's an audiobook.
I don't think you can because look at this, y'all. There's some weird. There's some very very interesting formatting in this book.
Ooh, I
So
like
I
a
noticed-
weirdly formatted
Format.
book.
There are a lot of different types of graphics, excerpts, all sorts of things in here. This is not written like a typical book. I don't want to show you anything or spoil anything, but I can see how an audiobook would never work for this.
Okay. I was
So-
not aware of that. Sorry for not knowing that in advance.
So Supernatural Enhancements for October. We're excited.
Martin,
Um,
it's not a problem. Adam and I plan to never fly to Minnesota on a Wednesday at 4 a.m. again. This is a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One-time thing.
until next year, maybe.
We've only moved it twice, right?
Yeah,
Ever? And the
so-
first time was because of like a
Weather
hurricane or
incident.
something?
Weather, yeah, it was weather
Thunderstorm.
related.
But yeah, so back to Wednesdays after this. Thank you for joining us on this odd Tuesday, literarily wasted. And for those of you who are upset that we didn't choose N.K. Jemisin, stay tuned.
And I will say
Maybe-
one last quick announcement.
Because there's a second chance poll coming up. Don't just
I
make it
usually
sound like
just-
we're doing N.K. Jemisin.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna old man's war it, but N.K. Jemisin will pop up in a second.
Sorry,
chance poll.
Lucas. What
Oh
were
no,
you
you're
saying?
fine. You're fine. If you have not heard, we're exploring launching a forum for
Next month,
literally
it's happening.
wasted. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
But we need people to beta test it and get in and start typing and making topics and all that good stuff. So we are all meeting as a group, these 4 people, next week to kind of go through how and when do we want to really launch this. But what we need you to do is, if you're interested, and there's no commitment really, other than just sign up, go test it out, and then we're going to see how we're going to poll people for feedback and whatnot. But there's a Google form sign up that's pinned in the club page. the group, the
Go
lounge.
fill it out.
Thank you. Go fill it out. We'd love to have you, and it's what we're looking at is going to be pretty cool. Like, there's probably going to be achievements and like badges you'll
Which is a
unlock.
good way.
And, like,
Just fill it out and stay tuned.
fill it out and stay tuned. But
I have to go to bed.
yeah, they have to go to bed now. So
Who's going to bed?
I have to wake up at 2:00 in the morning.
Just have to be up in 2 hours.
Yeah. This was great. I am
Yay.
glad that, like, thank y'all for letting us change the date so that we could still,
Yeah.
like, it would have been a huge bummer. I need book club. Don't want to miss it. So,
Yeah, this is
yeah,
the same
this is
sign-up.
the same sign up. If you've already signed up, you're good to go. So you do not need to do it again. But if you're just now hearing this, or if you have other folks that are outside of this club, because what we're going to try to do is really open it up into just like book community. And so if you have any other friends that may not be into sci-fi fantasy, but they might want a place to just talk with other book lovers, then please pass it along to them, because we want to grow what we're doing. So
What are you
That was
laughing
it.
at?
Talia's cracking me up.
I was making, I didn't realize, I was like, well, sorry, I was making a funny face and I was looking at my face making the funny face. And then I was like, well, what if I did this?
No, I appreciated
You
it.
got mouthwash? Mouthwash miming?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you in October. We'll see you on the internet in the meantime, and have a good time
everybody.
On the internet?
with whatever you're doing
Oh, yeah.
in the future.
Oh.